Entrepreneur, author, and financial consultant Mark Bernstein helps high-performing entrepreneurial business owners create a vision for the future and follow through on their goals and intentions. Ange Honorato is a business growth strategist who blends psychology and business together to create conscious leaders and business owners who impact the world. Founders Forum is a radio show podcast sharing the real stories behind entrepreneurship as founders discover more about themselves while providing valuable lessons and some fun and entertainment for you. Now, here's Mark and Ange.
Good morning, America. How are you? And I say that with a little bit of, non-judgment, because it might be evening when you're listening to this. It might be, you may be somewhere else in the world. You may be anywhere. But I hope you're having a great day, and I hope you're ready for what we think will be a great show. So my thought driving in this morning was about politics.
Oh,
and
boy.
This is not a political show. And on the station, there are plenty, I think, of political, at least influence shows, if not shows about politics. And I am pretty agnostic when it comes to politics, and definitely a centrist. So this is no judgment on anyone, but our former President Trump is in the news a lot, and as are the reactions from both sides to his indictments. And it just made me think about, I wasn't thinking about that as much as I was thinking about what's happening to the media and what's happening to the reaction around. And both of our big cable news channels that are politically influenced, the one on the left and the one on the right, are having problems, and they're going through a lot of hosts. And I'm just thinking, are people getting tired of the polarization and the one-sided news, and are people looking for more, news as news, not news as politics? And I'm just wondering your thoughts on that, Ange. What are you getting?
I think I couldn't agree more. I can speak for myself. I'm exhausted. I'm like you. I'm
tired.
Right down the middle. I've been on a news detox for a couple years now. I just think, and then you add in things like AI, and who knows what's being created, what's real, what's not. And I think a lot of people are trying to pay attention to more things that's important to them: their health, their families, their children, their aging parents, things we talked about earlier. And I just don't think there's any way we're going to change it right now unless we start with ourselves, right? So I think that's actually a great. I'm excited to talk to our guest today, and he's a good friend of mine, but he's got a really interesting business and a story. And we were talking offline about, some of the health benefits of the products that he does. And I think people would be best served to be focusing on that than the polarization of what's going on. We got to start with our own backyards, I think.
We will get to that in a second. The only thing I'll say is I try to detox from news, but I kind of have to listen to it because I'm in financial planning. We deal with economics, and all that influences what's happening in the markets. So I wish I could. I wish I could listen to none of it.
Well, I'm with you too. I mean, obviously in the corporate work that I do, it's important. We need to know what's going on with labor, and that's the world I'm in. But I guess what I meant was the point of just let's, starting with taking care of ourselves and our backyards. And I think that kind of takes care of the outside, in other words.
I'll have you introduce Tom in a second, but since Tom's on with us, Tom, you have any thoughts on that little subject before we talk about your story?
I'm totally with you guys on this thing. It's quite exhausting seeing, one side bashing the other side. And, it'd be nice if we could just work together towards a common goal for the better of the people and not,
And I think most of us feel that way. So why aren't we doing it? Look, there's been a little bit of bipartisanship lately. I see little glimmers of hope, and I'm just hoping that everyone's as worn out as we are. And when we vote, we look for people that are, there's this interesting group in Congress, the caucus builders, and there's a group that backs them called No Labels. There's another third party arising called the Forward Party. And whether you agree with the principles or not, some of it's just really basic things that flaws in our system that if we improve them would almost force more neutrality and more working across the middle. And that's where my hopes lie, those kind of movements. And the fact that they're rising means I think many of people are thinking the way we're thinking. But anyway, let's move on to Tom's story. So, Ange, you want to give an introduction to Tom?
Yeah, absolutely. And Tom, thanks for jumping on. I think the fact that you're here today is a testament to what I love about you as a person, is that you're always willing to jump in, to help out, to serve in a lot of ways. And we had a scheduling snafu today, and you filled the slot for us. So thank you so much for being here so quickly. But by way of a quick introduction, Tom, great friend of mine. Love the fact that he is a drummer in a band. I'm sure we'll talk a little bit more about that. Great band locally, Shot in the Dark. So
I love that too.
Yeah, excited for that. But Tom also has a great entrepreneurial story. And for the last, not to age you, Tom, but 45 years or so, he's been the owner and founder of Baltic Leisure, which is a company that manufactures and produces and private labels very high-end wine cellars, saunas, things for both residential and commercial clients. And he's going to talk to us a little bit more about that. But Tom, thanks again for being here, and welcome to our little show.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Tom, so you're a musician by background. I know we talked about it, and you've been doing that longer than you've been doing business. And we'll compare notes on that at some point. But how did you fall into this? This is an unusual business that you have. And
my father in 1973 bought a franchise of a company. It was Viking Sauna of Philadelphia at the time. And this was, he had another business that he went out and sold electrical gears and all kinds of other products, but decided he wanted to work for himself and get into something. That went fairly well. I became an installer for him to help him put this stuff in back in the day. Went to high school, got out of high school, went to automotive school, saying, boy, I like working with my hands. I like thinking. I like the whole mechanical end of it, but just couldn't see myself doing this for a living. So then I actually apprenticed with a cabinet maker for years and ended up working full time for the business, doing all the installation, the design, and just had a passion towards wood and creating stuff. Excellent. And that could be the part of the musician part of me too, because I know a lot of musicians are, creative that way, and they actually, run cabinet shops and other things. So, but I enjoy what I do. I'm passionate about what I do. I get to create, every day, and, work with some of the most affluent, great people ever,
How did you transition from the job that you had as a cabinet maker to starting your own business making, saunas?
How did I do that?
Wine cellars.
Basically, the guy who I was apprenticing with actually was installing for the company at the time, but he tried to end around my father and get his get the vendors from him, and my dad got word of it from the vendors, and my dad came to me and says, look, when the time's ready, learn all you can, and you let me know when you're ready, because I'm going to yank the rug out from under him. And,
that's great.
Since 78, that happened.
So you worked for your dad or with your dad?
I worked with my dad for years. He did a lot of the selling, and I would do the building, the repair, the all that end of it. Yes.
So in essence, you're a second generation family business.
I am second generation. Yes.
And it sounds like you had a great experience with that. Not everybody does.
No, it was a wonderful experience.
That's great. What do you? We talked before, and I know you were booming during the pandemic, as many people in your type of business was. People were pent up demand, and you mentioned earlier that health concerns had people thinking about saunas and things like that. What do you see for the future? Where do you see challenges? What's your future vision look like for the business?
I still think that people have health involved in their lives. People realize through the pandemic, if you don't have health and your health, you really don't have a life. I mean, a lot of people, became very ill and sick, and some of us passed through that pandemic. And, heat does kill viruses. It kills flu germs, and, a daily regimen of, heat, definitely sweats the toxins out of your system.
A little whiny.
We do live in a biochemical wasteland, with all the secondary smoke and the food preservatives that we take in and other things. There's got to be a way to get rid of it, and one is through sweating it out of your pores.
And a little wine here and there doesn't hurt either, I guess.
Oh, that's always good.
So, Tom, and looking at you, it sounds like you've had a very successful business. What factors do you think, what is it about you that you think have helped you create success? You're a creator, you like the creative end, but it takes more than that to run a successful business.
Well, one thing is we're a niche company, and we cater to made-to-order products. So if somebody does have a space in their house or their business or whatever, we can create that space and make it into a product. A lot of manufacturers, they'll build something that fits their sizes and hoping that you'll use that size.
So your ability to create really is behind your success, and that's what's created the demand.
Right. I mean, we make to order, and we do a lot of the stuff that the other manufacturers wouldn't even touch.
And I also think, Tom, I think what you're speaking to is also the importance of attention to detail. Number one, I've seen some of your work, and it is on point. It is the high quality, the attention to detail, the white glove nature. So it's really that customer service piece, I think, that you're referring to, and really the customization around, what different people are looking for. And I can see that being so incredibly important on the residential side, but I know you do a lot in the commercial space as well. So can you talk to us a little bit about what is that like when you now have to go into, say, dealing with a corporation or a hospitality management group or something, and how do you go about that process in terms of the creative process? You've got multiple people with opinions or what have you. So what are the differences between the residential and commercial side that you have to deal with?
Well, normally the commercial side, you're dealing with at least one designer, at least one architect, a job superintendent, and a construction company. And people have, different opinions of the way it should be. But the one beauty is that I've been in this business so long, they respect my opinion. And a lot of people don't understand these rooms. It's not just building a space out. It's a controlled environment room, and you have to understand the conditions needed to make it happen.
I have a question. You're unique. You have a unique ability, it sounds like, that really makes your company special. Since that's unique to you, as you look out into the future for your company, do you see this as a legacy? Do you see your company going on beyond you? And if so, how do you transfer those unique abilities?
Most of my people have been with me for 20 plus years. So my turnover is very, I don't have turnover that somebody's with me for 6 months and leaves.
Right.
But yeah, matter of fact, I'm thinking about that situation now because, I've been doing this for 45 years. I'm not going to do it for another 45, that's for sure. So I am looking at ways of transferring the business and everything else and make sure that it does survive. But no, my oldest son right now is working for me. So
gotcha. So you do have family. You have, how many children do you have?
I have 3.
3, and you're married.
Okay. I actually have a fiance. You have a fiance and 3 kids. How about work-life balance? Do you see any issues around that? Or, No, I do have the beauty that I can normally turn it off on my way home.
Good for you.
At one time early on, I used to work 24/7, it seemed like, but that is a balance with any entrepreneur, that you can't work all the time. You got to be able to have, split your time up. I find time to play music. I find time to enjoy my home life, and I have time, to do the business as well.
Excellent. And I would think if you have a tough day, going home and bashing the drums for a while is not a bad way to...
It definitely helps beat your frustrations out, yes.
Perfect. So this is a great time for us to take a break. We're going to have a quick sponsorship break for a minute, and we'll be back with Tom Smithson.
Establishing a self-directed Roth IRA or other self-directed retirement plan offers access to investment options usually only available to well-connected or wealthy individuals. Anyone can build wealth and achieve tax-free income for life and financial freedom without the inordinate risk of speculative investing, securities trading, exotic financial instruments, or hoping for the best from the stock market. Since their inception in 2003, Camaplan has come to be synonymous with expertise, flexibility, responsiveness, and diversity of investment choices. They provide innovative investment opportunities for investors seeking direct control and more choices in how they deploy their investment capital. Camaplan doesn't just make it possible to invest in alternative assets, they also teach investors how to put their money to work. Take the road to financial freedom today. Go to camaplan.com/IRA.
Welcome back to Founders Forum. Here with Ann John Arado, I'm Mark Bernstein, and with our guest, Tom Smithson of Baltic Leisure.
Yeah. So, Tom, before the break, you were talking a lot about kind of next steps, with the business and how you may or may not be transitioning it at some point. And one question I never asked you though is how did you come up with the name Baltic Leisure for the company? Right, we're in the East Coast. You're manufacturing in Oxford, which, if people don't know, is kind of out in the country. So, where did the whole Baltic theme kind of come from?
On a corp. And we went from a regional company to more a national company. So back in the day with Yellow Pages, everything was alphabetical. So you don't want a name starting with Penn because there's 12 people ahead of you on the list. And my mom had, figured out a name of the Baltics because the Baltic states were all about health and, saunas and
wine and
else.
Heat. Yeah.
And then leisure, is what we're doing. So you're not pigeonholing yourself as, if you're selling a wine cellar to a person in California, you don't want the name Penn in there, and you definitely don't want the name sauna in there. So we started marketing at Baltic Leisure years ago. It worked, and we've been trading since with all our products.
Wow, that's awesome. So Mom sounds like she had a great marketing and branding brain and influence on the business too, which is great. So another question and thought that I wanted to kind of ask you when you talked about how you apprenticed, how you when you were younger you liked being in sort of the mechanical things and learning how that kind of worked. And obviously, I think the saunas, it makes perfect sense to me, right? Where you're kind of melding together, working with your hands, mechanical components, but into that custom, construction and of a product and a thing. What I'm really interested in, and you probably know, I've spent my career really in kind of the white collar arena, doing executive search and working in corporations. And the last many years, I've been a big proponent of helping people who've got children coming out of school and trying to figure out next steps and saying, we're really losing. And I think we've lost so much ground in terms of the skilled labor market, and people that are wanting to be entrepreneurs and doing it in a way that they can use their hands and they can do things as a skilled, craftsman type of thing. So I'm curious for you, how do you see maybe in any interactions you have with the next generation, are people kind of coming back into, and maybe your son as well, I know it's a family business, but what are your thoughts around, kind of encouraging people to use their hands and to go into these business and learn the business behind how to run and create a skilled business?
I highly promote that. And I mean, one of the things I go out to job sites of, I work for a lot of high-end home builders and, the best of the best in the industry. And some of our conversations are, it's tough finding young people that are willing to go into the trades. And there's always somebody that's going to need a plumber. There's always somebody that's going to need an electrician, a carpenter, or whatever. So, I highly promote people to actually go into trade schools and apprentice and learn that sort of stuff because they can make a great living doing it. Mm-hmm. And everybody's going to need it. I mean, your roof is always going to leak sometime. So we need roofers, You're always your toilet's going to, overflow one day and you're going to need a plumber. But without the younger groups going into these, trades, it's tough.
Right. And no AI robot or 3D printer is going to fix your roof. Right. So I think that's
not at all, or have the skills to do that. There's.
Do you see a change in that I'm starting to hear things like people are, younger people are starting to question the value of college. Does everyone need to go to college and maybe they should have a trade? Do you see that swinging back a little bit? You see any trends in that direction?
I surely hope so, because I mean, I've known throughout the years a lot of people that went to college, spent a lot of money learning, a certain education that they did, and they're not even using that in what they're doing for a living now.
I work with a lot of manufacturers, and it's a big problem for manufacturing finding people. And there are some movements, and there's some groups forming around educating the public on that. You can have a great career in manufacturing, running machines or overseeing a line in manufacturing, that kind of thing. So it's a similar kind of thing. And I wonder if you're a niche business, but I know there are things like the Williamson Trade School, as an example, in our area that I know it provides scholarships. And have you ever looked there for people when you need people?
Yeah, we have. And another one, there's one up in Lancaster called Thaddeus Stevens.
Right.
There's another trade school. But yeah, I mean, basically we are a manufacturer. So we're manufacturing here as well. So you're always looking for good, people that are, have some skills, but learning to learn skills. It's that motivation, the drive, and, is what you need in an employee.
Tom, I asked you before about what's made you successful, and you shared your unique ability. We find that we talk to a lot of entrepreneurs, and I know from my own experiences, and Ange and I have talked about it, failures sometimes teach more than successes. Can you think of any obstacles you had or failures from which you really learned about a new direction in the business?
Well, as entrepreneurs, we always have failures, but it's also willing to try things.
Right.
You got to, if you take the same road home every day, you only see one thing. So you can always try it. If it doesn't work, you can always go a different direction.
So it sounds like that's almost a normal process for you. Try something new. If it doesn't work, try something else till you discover it.
And you get together with your team and you say, okay, this is the problem we had. How do we fix that problem? The good part is I have the ability normally to look at things and can sense a problem before I'll ever build it. And if I don't see that there's a solution or it's the right thing to do, I won't sell it to somebody and I won't build it flat out.
Do you see challenges in front of you in the business that maybe are different from what you've seen in the past?
I mean, there's always been challenges. I mean, over the past few years, we had supply chain issues. We had, lumber got stupid in price. I mean, whoever thought a 2x4 would become, almost $10 a piece. But, and our company is basically, when we give a price, it's the price. We don't, you never have a client complaining when at the end of the job, you tell them, here's the invoice, and it's exactly what the proposal was.
That's it. Boy,
so I try and keep, prices down, and always sourcing at the right price and holding my prices, even if sometimes I've lost money in the past numerous times, but it's just the way I am. I'm not going to, come back on my word, and I wouldn't want somebody to do it to me, nor would I do it to somebody else.
Well, that's a simple business model that I'm sure generates a lot of goodwill that a lot of businesses, I think, could learn from. It's amazing how many people don't subscribe to those rules, how many businesses don't subscribe to those rules. We have a little extra time. Shall we talk about music a little bit?
Oh, we could talk about music for sure.
Well, tell me your favorite band. Let's start with that.
You know what? I really don't have a favorite per se, because I love every genre. I can tell you, I just sat front row to see Kansas Friday night at the Keswick and loved it.
That's someone else I was
talking to. There's a band that weathered 50 years,
Yeah.
But
name five top bands, or who are some of your favorites, just like stream of consciousness.
I like Rush. I like Led Zeppelin. I like Dave Matthews. I mean, Earth, Wind, and Fire. I'm all over the map. Nice. I mean, I'll go see anybody from jazz to Motley Crue. Yeah. So,
well, interesting you mentioned Rush, because one of the greatest drummers and one of the greatest bass players, since I'm a bass player, were members of Rush.
Yes, they were
incredible guys.
Yeah, one of the things that I love, Tom, about the fact that you are still so passionate about not just your business, which is your craft, right, or your unique ability as we just talked about. But I love the fact that what you do is a passion, that you're still doing it, and you do it with as much energy as you put into your business and earning revenue and to your family. That, I think obviously I love to come watch you play. I have things I like to still do and not have it ever be something that I'm like, well, maybe I'm at a point in life or an age where I should stop playing hockey or I should stop doing these things, right? That are, but I think it's a real inspiration, honestly. And I don't mean that gratuitously. I think it's really awesome for even a younger generation to say, hey, we can build businesses and you still can do the things that you love to do and do it with that same amount of energy. So, I'm grateful for you that you are still hitting your drum kit every couple weekends.
No, it's something I have a passion for, always have, and I enjoy doing it. I think everybody in life needs to do something that they enjoy doing for themselves.
Do you ever get
because sometimes you get pigeonholed and you feel and you have to do things for everybody else in your life. But this is something I do for me. It's something that definitely relieves tension and stress. I mean, I just love doing it. I forget about everything when I'm playing music.
The only thing I have to tell you that I don't love anymore about playing music is lugging equipment. I have to say.
Amen to that one, brother.
We got to find some roadies.
Oh yeah.
And the equipment.
I've been looking for those for a number of years. You let me know when you find something.
the equipment is smaller, not necessarily in drums, but the equipment has gotten smaller for me, smaller amplifier. But I'm getting more and more of it, between the soundboard and the, so that's become part of my role. So I'm needing a bigger car and people to help lug this stuff because I don't mind setting up. That's exciting. The end of the night when you're done, that's where I need some help. So we'll.
Yeah, I'm with you. I actually went to all electronic drums just to make my life a little easier at the end of the night. So
listen, any music fans out there, Tom and I are both looking for roadies. Mark at markjbernstein.com, Mark with a C. Let me know, and we will share information. You might get jobs with at least a couple bands.
Right. And Tom, thanks again for jumping on with us today. And again, if anybody is in the local area, or actually you work beyond the region, right? So
yes, we do.
Good. So anybody, beautiful wine cellars, saunas, go check out Baltic Leisure and go check out Shot in the Dark at your local next venue. So thanks again, Tom, and we'll see you soon.
Thanks for having me, guys. I enjoyed it.
And thank you all for listening to Founders Forum. We will see you again next week.
We hope you enjoyed your time with Founders Forum today and you found value to take with you throughout your day. Join us again next week for another episode of Founders Forum on WWDB Talk Radio and always at the Founders Forum show page at WWDBAM.com.